Hi there, I'm Linda Varos, and welcome to my channel. This is the Valentine's Day weekend, and although this content is about love, self-acceptance, self-love, and how to really develop more love in your life and bring more love into your life, it isn't just about Valentine's Day and Valentine's Day weekend. This can be viewed and utilized every day throughout the year. And I want to share with you today a couple of tools that I have worked through in my own life that have really made life-changing differences in how my life unfolds and also how I feel about myself, the world, the place that I'm able to come back to when I have doubts or fears. And I really want to share this with you today so that you can utilize these tools and see how they work for you. And so, if you're not familiar with me, I'm Linda Varos. I've been a clairvoyant medium since childhood because of several, well, a near-death experience, but several mystical experiences in my life, and um, a group of what I call my dream guides who appeared in my 20s and began sharing knowledge, information, and solutions to problems that can be applied, for anyone, not just for me. And so I'm also a Reiki master teacher, and I have been a Reiki practitioner since 2001. So I guess that makes it 25 years now. Um, and I will be doing some other videos about sort of where that's brought me to now and kind of my new perspective on frequency healing, energy healing, because it's really evolved after 25 years of work. And I also do readings, which I started when I was in my teens, but only for friends. And it wasn't anything I actually asked to do or chose to be. Um, in fact, I fought it for many, many years. The only thing was that I have been gifted with a compassionate heart, and I've always wanted to be able to help people. And so I kept that flowing until it became very clear to me that this was a path I was supposed to follow in a bigger way. And so that being said, anyway, I want to come in here by saying really the love in our lives comes to us not first from the outside, but first from the inside. And for many people, that's a very difficult place because by nature, we are incredibly judgmental of ourselves, and or if not of ourselves, then of others. And that really is a reflection on how we feel about ourselves, even if we don't realize it. And also, people say, horrible things to us when they're angry, or because they don't like us, or, when you're a child, especially, these kinds of things really impact us. And then we take on what's being said, and we don't know better. We don't know that we don't need to believe the names we've been called, the things we've been told about ourselves, because we don't know any better, right? We're very trusting, pure souls as children. And that creates the foundation of how we view ourselves. And over time, we continue to develop a self view, a self perception, a perception of how we see ourselves and how we believe others see us, and how we move through the world ultimately, by this perception that we have developed through our entire lives of ourselves. And I want to say that I'm here today to help you formulate that perception, to help you go deeper into your own heart energy and into the truth of who your real of your real being. Okay. Um, there's two ways we can live this life. We can live reactively by just responding to external influences, and right now is a big example of that with all of the circus that's going on in this dimensional reality. And there are other beings who have higher purposes for this circus, and for us to get knocked off our balance, knocked out of balance, and be distracted from doing inner, quieter, intentional work, because that's when we will evolve and recognize our own power, our own strength, our own abilities in our one-on-one situations, in our life situations, and in how we permit those outside of us, including the media and situations that we really feel powerless over, that we really do have power. But, they don't want us to recognize that because that puts their mission at threat. And so there's so much benefit to coming back into your self-perception that falls outside the boundaries of just the way you view yourself, but these perceptions and these beliefs that you carry with you are the foundation, as I had said earlier, of things, how things evolve in your own life and where you're headed. And actually what even is attracted to us is also a part of that, a big part of that. So I want to say first that choosing between living reactively or proactively is a very important thing that I'm just going to put it right on the table. It's important for you to evaluate and question, am I, do I have daily practices? Do I have daily goals for my forward momentum? And are those daily goals founded in the joy or the dreams and desires that I have for myself? Or or am I driven forward by what other people's expectations or needs are? And right there, that is a clue to you if you're saying, I don't have any choice, I'm stuck in this scenario, that you're living reactively. Okay. And there are ways around that. And again, perception. What you believe creates a reality. And that's proven. I'm not going to sit here and try to prove that to you. I will say that it's been proven to me. And when you try it, you'll get the proof. The proof will be in the pudding for you, yourself, as I have discovered in mine. And so think about that, the difference between living reactively and living proactively. What is it? And the reason I say do this by the day, because we get overwhelmed, because we tend to think that we have to have all the pieces in place for what we want to happen to unfold. If I want to start a project, a creative project, because I'm also an artist, if I want to start a creative project, oh, and it's something completely new, oh boy, I need to have the resources to go out and the time to go out and purchase all those products, so I can get the ball rolling. No, maybe not. Maybe it's only going to require that I take the first step. And that first step might be I just take 15 minutes and a tablet and a pencil, and I just sketch down or write the words of my ideas and maybe break that down in a bullet list of what I would do step by step, just so I can break it down and look at it from another perspective. I'm a big fan of bullet lists. I don't, just because I'm a person that could write down 25 things on the bullet list, but um, it's not realistic that I'm going to follow all 25 things on the bullet list right away. It's like, what are those top three? Go through the bullet list and pull out the top three and pick one then, and just take one step in that direction. So it may be, a different way of looking at something, and I'll step into that in a minute. But rather than trying to approach living proactively by saying, okay, that's just I'm just as an umbrella um, project and I'm going to do it as an umbrella thing. And therefore I have to be proactive about everything at once. No, just try to take one day at a time. And because the present moment is now, right? Even if we look at mindfulness, it's only about now. Like tomorrow has not happened yet. And if we think it has, it's all in our creative mind, okay? And our creative mind is also able to bring up creative sensory reaction to what our creative mind comes up with. And then we start believing our senses, oh, I can perceive something that might happen tomorrow because of a phone call that I just got. And I'm assuming based on past history, what's going to happen when that happens tomorrow. This is what I think will probably unfold. And then in advance of it, I begin to fear that and I begin to set up apprehension for that. And now I'm in the energy of it. It hasn't even happened yet, right? It hasn't even happened yet. And there's possibility that I can redirect it if I am in a clear state of mind and an open state of mind that I can think, how else can I see this? How else can I look at this? And wait for an answer and then redirect yourself. But stop jumping ahead otherwise, because then you're not living in the day and you're setting yourself up for failure. So if you've got to plan ahead because that's your job, do it by the bullet list. If you've got to plan ahead because you're taking a trip next week, you need to make sure everything's all lined up. Do it by the bullet list. If you're concerned about someone you've got to meet with and you have bad energy going between the two of you, that's a different story. That's about perception again. So I'm going to bring us back to that and say it's more important that you choose to be proactive starting today. And this is going to align with your heart energy. So we've got the brain reasoning, and we also have the presence and stillness of mindfulness. And this is where our duality comes in. It's the duality of reactive, proactive, the duality of trust versus fear, the duality of allowing versus forcing, and the duality of the brain and reason versus presence and mindfulness. And immediately when we get into the reactive, we're moving into the energy of conflict, internal conflict. It's very easy for internal conflict to come up. And when I say conflict, I'm talking about the conflict within you between peace and disharmony. Okay. So right there, you have a choice. You have a choice. And that choice is actually ultimately going to lead you to the first steps towards inner peace. Okay. Because now you're in control of your day. And if you have to go deal with someone who's horrific and difficult to deal with and exhausting, and it's taking all of your energy and there's nothing left for you at the end of the day, change the way you're perceiving it when you're going there. Okay. I'm not, instead of saying I'm not going to, because that's a negative, you want to stay positive. Okay. I'm going to approach today looking at it as something I need to accomplish and get through, and know that I'm setting aside time for me later on in the day to, even if it's literally, even if it's 5 minutes. Okay, you can't make an excuse around 5 minutes. How long do you sit on the commode? Okay, like 5 minutes. All right. Like take 5 minutes on the commode if you have to remove yourself from a space where other people are combative in your environment. Go to the bathroom. And it's funny because I tell people that even when you're meditating, one of the best places to do it is sitting on that bowl that has water in it because it's attached to, copper or it's attached to pipes and there's more water underground and you are now amplifying since we're like 72% water, okay? And frequency and thought, which is frequency, and emotion, which is in frequency, is now traveling, it's now amplified because you're sitting on a porcelain bowl that is filled with water. So there's different ways you can look at that, I'm sure, but that's a fact. So there's no excuse, right? Except the excuse of I'm afraid to evolve. I'm afraid to be better than who I am right now. I'm afraid to stop blaming what's happening outside of me. And and that's okay too. You want to be ready for this. But we have a setup by the universe and the planets whose positions have been moved by the divine source of creation. Okay, a source of creation, all that is. Those planets have been moved in ways that will give us opportunity. They're not saying this is going to happen to you. They're saying, I'm giving you the opportunity. Mercury retrograde is coming up, and that is always about reviewing and revisiting things that haven't happened, and things get broken because they need fixed. And it's annoying, but it's an opportunity to move forward and not have it break at another time, right? It's actually can be utilized if you utilize the negative aspect of that planetary aspect by saying, okay, this is in a period where, it could be about broken bones. What do you do? Oh, I think I'm going to take this period to be building my bones. Okay. Or with Mercury retrograde, I'm going to go back and look at what didn't work before that I still want to do. Let's try it again because now it's going to work. Now it will work. We're revisiting. You're reviewing something, you're reapplying something in a different way, and now it will work. So your excuses won't work. Okay. I just want you to know that. And you're the one that has to answer it to yourself. So now we're going to move into self-perception because it's important that you love yourself. And that, as I said, is difficult for a lot of people to do because of the things that we believe that other people have fed to us, or we've made mistakes. Well, let me touch on that part first. Okay. I had a very difficult time. As I said, I've come to many of these crossroads through my own self-realization because I've been on the path of self-realization since I became aware of the fact that you could analyze yourself and make corrections. And that was literally uh, moving out of childhood into my preteen years, I believe. Um, and I'd had already a number of spiritual experiences, and I expected at that point, I took it for granted that there is more than one reality running parallel with this reality at the same time, but we don't normally see it. But help is there in that reality. And that's because that's what I've been shown multiple times by that age. So having, when I fast forward to my adulthood, whenever I am holding myself back by self-chastising, right? I'm not perfect. I'm not good enough. I can't. Not that anybody tried to make me feel that I wasn't, but the world makes you feel that way, And I went to a Catholic elementary school, and that was all. And I will say, between the seventh and eighth grade, I suddenly realized that there was both beauty in my faith, but there were things in my faith that I absolutely could not come on board with because, such as God's an angry God and he's going to punish you. Okay. or he causes bad things to happen, or he's a he and not a he and she. Okay. I knew that wasn't right because I'd been shown otherwise, and I'd already experienced divine love pouring into me on two separate occasions by the time I was, you know, really by the time I was 7. So here I am as an adult feeling these expectations of perfection. And that's where a lot of these external sources get it wrong. This is what they're trying to teach us, that we must rise up and be perfect in order to ascend at the end of this life. And that we're going to be punished here. And there is, we bring punishment on ourselves, and absolutely there is right and wrong. And I'm not saying there isn't. But this nitpicking at perfection that we can never, it's impossible to achieve that level of perfection. The most important thing we can do is learn the beauty of our own soul and that we are eternal beings. And I will tell you that I have witnessed a soul leaving the body within, I would say, 20 minutes of death. And the reason I think the soul didn't leave instantly was because this was a faith-filled person who was on a gurney in the ER, and I had come in after the ambulance did, and there were other family members standing around her. And she waited, I believe her soul waited because the pastor of her faith was coming to say the prayers. And when he said the sentence, and we commend your spirit, or we lift your spirit up. That right before he said that, and I've told this story to other people, but I'm sorry if you've heard it before, but it's so important. It's so important, um, because you can apply it at the death and time of crossing for anyone that you love. But something told me, as everyone else standing around her was standing there looking down in prayer, and something said to me, I don't want to look down. I want to look up at her face. I want to look up at her. And the minute I did that, the pastor read that line. We ask you to lift up her soul. And all of a sudden, from the top of her head comes these 3 large streaks, of white light. Zoom, 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 like that. And I was stunned. And I looked at everyone else. No one was looking at her, of course, because everyone was being very prayerful. But I knew immediately, I just saw her soul leave. Um, and that to me was such a verification, not only from just believing that we are eternal beings, but to see it happen. So I will tell you that when I go to a funeral, and if it's the old-fashioned type of funeral, where they roll the coffin up to the front of the church, and they come around and they say the prayers, and when they say that moment, I know that at that moment, that's when that soul is departing. They may have been visiting their family members for a couple of days between the time they passed and the time the body, is prayed up in ceremony, in collective ceremony. But that's when I break down and cry in that moment, because I know that this moment, not only is it beautiful because they're ascending, but it's also the moment that they're really departing. And that doesn't mean you won't still hear from them, because you will, but that's really the separation point. So, okay, coming back to my what I want to share with you here. Connecting with the reality that you are an eternal being, and that you are in this beautiful human temple that you were given the opportunity to have this experience in the third dimension, which is the sensory dimension, the only dimension that is sensory, just sensory dimension. And science has actually proven that at least they've proven 12 dimensions at this point. And this is the third dimension. This is the feeling dimension. Think about your life. Think about what we're seeing and being exposed to right now. It is all sensory, all sensory. And what are we being blasted with? Negative sensory. Okay. Call back your own self, your own being, and know that there are other sensory levels you can be exposing yourself to in this time. Love being the most primary one, peace, harmony, the beauty of a flower, the love of your dog or your cat, of your grandchildren, of your children, of your baby, of your spouse and your life partner, the sensory experience, even food, although we have to be careful not to fall into that as a cover up for something, because food, alcohol, is in that realm. I mean, it's really to sustain the body. And, where chocolate is concerned, I have an issue. And I think a lot of us do. But, allow yourself to be present in that moment. Be present, fully present when a baby is looking at you and smiling, or your dog or cat is so grateful that you're sitting on the sofa with them and petting them, and they're looking up in your eyes. Like, control your mind and your awareness in that moment. Okay, really absorb that sensory experience. And so that you can reflect on it when you're not home, or when you're not with the baby, or you're not with the grandchild, or you're not looking into the eyes of your loved one. Okay. And amplify those emotions, and amplify and expand the emotion of gratitude. So bringing it into your daily, if you don't have a daily spiritual practice, it can be this very simply. Wake up in the morning, connect with however you see the higher source of all that is, the higher source of creation, and just get up and say good morning, whether it's your guardian angel, and name your guardian angel. And I'm talking about above and beyond the family members who've crossed and the people that you love who've crossed. We're talking about putting gratitude in the stream of creation. Okay. And send that thank you for the blessings and the miracles that you are putting in my day today. I thank you in advance. And just hold that gratitude for a minute. Hold that gratitude for a minute. Don't look at your phone yet, which is what one of the monks on the Peace Walk said. Don't look at your phone yet. Great advice, because that activates the, part of the brain that doesn't need activated yet. And just start your day in gratitude. Start your day in gratitude for a blessing that you now have asked for and prayed and given thanks for. So you have created a connection to the activation of a blessing, whatever that blessing may be, or a gift, or synchronicity is a tiny blessing. And recognize that and connect with it in advance and establish that pattern. Okay. This is going to help. Gratitude expands love within you, because later on in the day, when that tiny miracle or big miracle happens, or magic, and that, magic is also one of these things where the English language has been weaponized. Magic is not about bad things. Okay. Well, they made us believe it, but magic is another word for miracle. That's all it is. It is another word for miracle. And Would evil people like to use it for evil purposes? Yeah, they could use miracle for evil purposes if they want. The backlash is going to be on them, but don't fall for it. Okay. It's time that the more we move into the energies of gratitude, the energies of the higher energies of peace, harmony, joy, these are going to expand your inner being. And this is going to bring you into moments of peace. And the more you have one moment of peace and you recognize it, you align with it, it expands that energy within you. It expands love within you. It's even going to expand your self-perception. Okay, because now you're feeling something and you're remembering something. You're remembering something about who you are. And in that moment, there is no conflict. And there will be more of that because you're going to want more of it. And therefore, you're going to think about it more often. And therefore, you're going to bring it into your day more often. And if you're a person who practices, meditation, do this first and then bring that into meditation. Because the most potent thing you can do in meditation, from my experience of attempting for years to move into meditation with my mind and then fighting to turn my mind off and focusing on my breath work. Yes, that is mindfulness. Yes, that does work, but it never brought me to the ecstasy that I was expecting, the spiritual ecstasy I was expecting. What did was when I began with my heart energy, which I discovered on my own a number of years ago, because I decided that I was just gonna, I was giving up on it. And I was just going to sit and send love from my heart to Jesus because he's somebody that I'm very deeply connected with, not as somebody who's up there because he came down here and told me otherwise. I'm your brother, I'm your co-creator, I'm your partner. Okay. Don't look up and expect to see me there. I'm right here. And that was 2 days after I started sending love with my heart. But I will tell you that with the first day, within minutes, I had a tremendous, beautiful download of love. I got a response. And I did it again the next day. And on the third day, I got a big response. And so for me, I will not meditate without going into the love in my heart energy first. And then I connect with meditating. And I will tell you, that's a shortcut. That is a powerful, huge shortcut. And the universe knows I'm about shortcuts. I've always been about shortcuts. I wasn't born with a lot of patience. And that's something I've had to work on. But I'm so blessed to be gifted with a team, a divine team that works with me. We all have a divine team. And yes, some of them are, your deceased loved ones. But there's a higher circle of beings that are assigned to you. You were with them before you chose to come in here and go through what you're going through. But you can make choices to not be going through them anymore. And that's really what awakening is about. Realizing. Yes. So I want to go back to your self-perception. I'm going to give you the first big part of it. And that is recognizing that you are a soul having a human experience, which I went through lengthy bits here to try to explain to you. And you came in because you believed you needed to go through something to purify more because you didn't feel worthy enough to ascend yet. And that's an illusion in itself. Okay. Parts of it. And I will say, so sitting here in this awareness that you are Your expectation was to go through challenges as a human. So you're going to make mistakes and you're going to hopefully learn by them. That's the whole point, right? So if you're learning by them, and if you can look back on the mistakes you made and you can say, well, I don't do that anymore, and I'm not going to do that again. You know what? Pat yourself on the back and say, there's progress. I'm trying. I'm really trying. And if you're trying, you need to give yourself the reward of feeling you are making progress. And you should feel better and recognize that the reason you're making mistakes and the reason other people are making mistakes is because we believe we're here to learn. And the only way we learn is by making mistakes. And some of them can be horrible. But if you know you're not going to repeat that again, or you know that you're not going to allow that person to repeat that again to you, then you must come to a place where you stop reflecting on it. You stop regurgitating something that cannot be changed. It happened. It was an event. They were experiences. What did you learn from them? What's the takeaway? Where have you set your boundaries? Where have you learned that you were at fault? Have you accepted that? Are you able to say, okay, I made a mistake. I made a mistake. I did not view my role in this whole thing. Or maybe you did have a role and you were total innocent, but your soul chose to be there for some reason. Maybe it was past life interaction that needed to be cleared in this one. Okay. Or maybe it's an awakening to, hey, you're not able to look at where you're at fault. And that's maybe what your challenge is in this lifetime. Do you think you're above everybody else? Maybe. Maybe you're just too afraid. You have so much fear that you can't. Is that what are you fearing? Okay, what's the worst thing that can happen? And could you deal with that? Maybe there's another outcome. Maybe it's not what the outcome wouldn't be what you think. Maybe it would be something completely different. At which point you sit with that and you ask the divine, how can I see this differently? How can I see this differently? And wait for a response. And if it's you thinking, stop right there. Come back. That's when you come back to your breath work. Come back to your heart and ask again, how can I see this differently? And wait with expectation. Wait. Something else will come in. You will get an answer for sure. And sometimes it's so off the rails from what you would have imagined. And then your next question is, and it's these two questions, that one, how can I look at this differently? And the next question is, what do I need to do to resolve this? And wait, because that's showing that you have trust in the divine, that you are being heard, and there is a solution. You've got to hand it over for a minute there and wait. And what happens is you begin to realize that it's okay that you made mistakes and you don't want to hold on to what other people have done to you. And you accept yourself with your flaws. And you don't have to believe what other people said you were or who people said you were. Who do you want to be? Who do you want to become? Because today, this moment is your new beginning. How do you see yourself? Look at influencers. What do when they want to come on and they want to start being accepted as a, a teacher a physiologist or a therapist or, an exercise or a travel guru? What do they do? Or what have they been doing? I mean, there's a shift now. It's to people that are more like natural and just want to put it out there. Thank God for that. But the people who started the ball rolling, or maybe the role that they see themselves in. Maybe they needed to go out and buy a whole new wardrobe. Maybe they needed to lose 25 pounds. Maybe they believe this. Maybe they needed to put on their false eyelashes and um, anyway, they're presenting themselves in a way that they feel is going to be acceptable by the audience that wants to hear what they have to say. Okay? So they've recreated themselves and put themselves out there for the world to see. And the world, we view them, we believe that they are who they're saying they are if we check their credentials. And, that's what they did. They started and began presenting themselves in this way. And they've just recreated themselves. Everyone on this planet has the opportunity to do that, has the opportunity to put the past behind them and decide that there's a new starting point, how they're going to view themselves when they walk into a room with other people that they feel are going to be judging them. Maybe you don't worry about that. Are these people really going to be that important to your life moving forward? Will you ever even see most of them again? If you change jobs, are they even going to remember you? Does it matter? What matters is authentic you, the authentic you, and how you bring the authentic you into the world. Because once you do, your heart and your light will be in alignment with each other. Who you want to be will begin to evolve. The type of life you want will begin to come to you. I'm not saying it's going to happen overnight. Most things happen one step at a time, not all at once. And so, loving yourself with all your flaws and your imperfections, and realizing that maybe not everybody is going to accept you, and maybe not everybody is going to love you, and that's okay. They're not your people, and they'll move on, and they will find their people, and the people who are your people will find you. And this goes for people who are looking for a love partner right now. They want love in their life. They feel, they can't understand why they can't find anyone, and it's making them feel insecure. And I would say, if you're judging yourself harshly and you're still seeing yourself in the same pattern that you saw yourself in as you were going through all your difficulties, how can you attract a person who's in alignment with the dream that you always wanted, the dream that you always wanted to live? They can't be attracted to you. You're in a field of energy, which is another word that's now being weaponized, I guess, or made fun of, or what have you. Um, we're electric beings. We are energy. We get an energy bill from our electric company. I just rest my case right there. And so the more you're able to change your perception about yourself and recognize that you don't have to be perfect because no one else is, nor will they ever be. It's just not possible. And the divine doesn't expect us to be perfect. The divine wants us to awaken from this loop that we're in. Okay? We came here to learn a lesson, and the lesson is, guess what? You're already a pure being of light that is eternal. And once you recognize that and you begin to accept and love yourself, your light begins to shine. It expands. And the people that are your people are attracted to that light because it's reminding them of theirs. So when you shine your own light, you're triggering other people to remember their own light. And that's a beautiful role to have in this reality. That's a beautiful emotion to be experiencing in this dimension. The joy of recognizing your own light and feeling it, of recognizing somebody else's light when you walk in a room and you know those people. You already know who I'm talking about that are in your life. And they might not be thinking about it. They're just automatically shining their own light because they walk through the world seeing beauty in the midst of the destruction. Not that they're not sad, not that they're not pouring their heart out and praying for others and trying to do what they can, volunteering, donating, you know, but you see their light because they're living in it. And so I want to leave you with that today. And it was a lot. I shared a lot more than I kind of expected to, but that's kind of how I roll. And so on this Valentine's Day weekend, or any day that you might view this, I hope that you will allow yourself to connect to your own light and to recognize that you're a flawed human and it's okay because so is everyone else. And it's a temporary state of being because your divine soul is unconditional love, pulsing within you, around you, connected to the divine stream of love, one with it, never disconnected. You're here to remember that. That's what you're here to remember. And so today, I wish you that love today and every day. From my heart to yours, every day is Valentine's Day. And I wish that for you. Come back, visit again. Please share this with all those that you love or those that you know need love. I appreciate that. And that'll help me as I'm motivating myself to continue to build this channel because it's time for me to share what I've learned. And I thank you so very much. Many blessings, and I hope to see you again. Please like and subscribe, and that would be sharing the love. Thank you.